Hey, this is Rachel O'Rourke with Spark Personal Growth Experiences for Women, and you are going to enjoy this episode if you are ever wondering how your story can not only change your life, but impact the lives of others. It's really good. I hope you enjoy this episode of Ever Forward Radio. Yay! Cheers!
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's your coffee of choice? What are you drinking?
This is a London Fog with almond milk, so it's tea actually.
I have not had a London Fog in a long time.
It's so good.
Those are very good.
Yeah. And sometimes tea just isn't quite enough punch for me. So, and coffee, I've had coffee this morning. I can't have too much of it.
Okay, so you kind of like regulate your caffeine a little bit. Sometimes cool.
Yeah, and I'll get nauseous if I have too much.
I've been there a few times. It's not fun.
I think my body, as it gets older, though, it's starting to naturally not crave it as much or not need as much caffeine.
Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's no Mind Pump studio, but hey, we got to do what we got to do.
Oh, my God, those guys.
Bunch of assholes.
Well, I heard they just moved it, too.
They are moving, I don't know if they're moving their full-blown, total studio. I know they're doing something else. They kind of have, another kind of, recording spot somewhere else.
Okay.
I think in Tahoe.
Oh, nice. Yeah, assholes.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I went in there, and it was right after they first built the studio, and I was like, this is a goal.
When were you out there? I was December 2017.
So I was, what year was it? It was in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember what month it was. No, maybe it was early 2018, actually.
Yeah.
It might have been right after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2017, I was just on the cusp of finally being able to convince people what a podcast was, because that was the year that I started mine. In your experience of podcasting or anything else that you catch yourself doing these days, in the internet self-employed world, have you ever tried to explain to somebody what you do and they just don't get it?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All the time.
She's like, yes.
Yeah,
okay,
all the
cool.
time.
Yeah. Enlighten us, please. What are they? And do you think it's gotten better? Do people understand kind of what people do in this modern age?
I think
clearly at all? Or?
I think it depends what circles you're in. I think there's some circles where they're like, oh, absolutely. I know exactly what you do. I know exactly what the podcasting platform is in general. But more people are definitely knowing about that. There's still, I was talking to a group of women last night, and they were in their 50s though, and they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like the new radio.
Yeah.
No, it is what it is.
And so, you've picked up this platform before. You've picked up this project before. Is that kind of, what's the question here? Is that kind of the formula? Is that the recipe for people when we step out into our own, that you try something, you pick it up, and it's either a hell yes or a complete no or not right now? And then, because you've come back and forth to the podcasting platform a little bit. What was it about this platform that was just a no right now, and what brought you back to it?
Well, I enjoyed listening, and so when I first left corporate and I got into my own business, I knew that I needed a platform for content, and because I loved listening, I was like, well, I'll do a podcast. I used to want to be a radio DJ, and
oh, no way.
So I'm like, here's my chance. It's my own radio. I underestimated how much work that it takes. It can be a full-time job if you have a weekly show and if you're doing interviews. And I think I got a handful of interviews in, and there was a bunch I didn't even release because it just became too much for me. I was doing it by myself. And bless you for doing it by yourself. It's a ton of work.
we got some help nowadays, but literally only until this year. This is my third year in, and we just started doing 3 episodes a week as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm a crazy person.
Look at you. Well, obviously it's working for you, though. And
it's working, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of self-feeding cycle of it's so stressful, but it's your baby, it's your passion project, and it's my living now as well.
Yeah, I feel 100% that way about my business.
Yeah.
But for coming back to podcasting, when I knew I wanted to do it again, I knew I needed a co-host and wanted to just do it differently than what a lot of people are doing. It's non-interview, and it's just conversations. And
it's got to make your schedule so much easier. You don't have to worry about people scheduling, canceling, rebooking all the time.
Oh, yeah. And my co-host lives a block away from me.
Oh, easy.
Which is
easy.
Really nice. She's about to pop out a baby, though, so that's going to get interesting.
Oh, what a jerk. She's going to ruin your schedule.
Come on, Lizzie. I know.
Kids, man, they just ruin everything.
I know. I've got 4 of them. Yeah, they're time-consuming, but...
Well, I definitely want to get into your story more, but I always just kind of just off the cuff, just what's top of mind kind of thing. And for me, past couple of weeks, I've I mean, getting out IRL more in real life.
Yeah.
And it's always good, you know, because whether you have like a side hustle or you know, your business is all you, or, you know, you're just an extremely busy working professional, it's very easy to get caught up in that.
100%.
And I would say it's even more easy because when it is yours and it is your business, it's like, well, if I don't keep working, you know, I'm going to lose this deal, I'm going to lose this money. We always fear that we're going to be homeless tomorrow, right? And so the solopreneur versus kind of getting out in real world, real life situations, mingling, whether it's real relationships, whether it's networking, I'm kind of beginning to see that this solopreneur world, or just like the busy working professional, I think we're starting to catch on that, hey, we need help. Like, hey, human interaction is good. And for me, actually, Fridays for a couple of months now, I only schedule that. Like, I'm getting coffee with friends, going out to lunch, finding like a live event or something like that. Like, as little to no work as possible, and getting out of here, getting out of my little downtown LA bubble, getting out of my work bubble, and just getting out back with human interaction. Do you have like a little formula for how you integrate human interaction? I mean, now you've got a co-host, so you kind of get that on the work aspect, but in your solopreneur world, running a business, being a working professional, like, how do you stay connected to other human beings?
You know what? I'm glad that you asked that, because I had this epiphany maybe 9 months ago that there needed to be more consistent human interaction.
Perfect timing with your co-host getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Maybe you knew that you were going to be alone soon.
Well, my business is I do personal development experiences for women. It's called Spark, and it started off as this once a year conference, and which was great because I think getting people together, like face to face, where they can actually feel the energy of another human being. It's what makes live events so freaking amazing. But the other, 363 days a year, I was isolated. I was trying to run an online business, and I was trying to do all the things that you're supposed to do in the online world. And it got very isolating.
Were you hashtag grinding?
Yes.
25/8, all of that.
Yeah. But you know what? Because I love it so much, it didn't feel like didn't feel bad. But last year was the year that I realized that women, because I particularly work with women, they crave community so badly. They just want connection.
Yeah.
And there's only so much that you can get online. Like, you can get so many deeper conversations when you're face to face. And so we started doing a lot more local, in-person, different like speaking events and different networking events in the Portland community. And it like quadrupled my business.
No way. Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, people, they trust you so much more, I think, when they can actually like look you in the eye and
get a vibe.
Yeah. And feel like you're not just trying to take their money. You actually want to help them. And it's, I mean, I grew a team in the last year as well, which has been life-changing.
Awesome.
I mean, really helped in scaling, but also just being able to, I'm not always 100%. I mean, I don't believe like everybody can have all high vibe days.
We just need more coffee.
Oh God. There's definitely days where like I'll call Janelle, who's the director of operations for my company, and I'm like, I don't feel like doing shit. Like, please, can you cancel all my meetings today? And she'll do it, and then she'll help me rally, and she'll come over and she'll visit and just help me bring up my vibration when I'm feeling kind of crappy.
How do you kind of gauge when that pops up? Because you're a human being.
Yeah.
I'm a human being. Whether we're running our own business or we're trying to go to work, need to go to work, or just facing the day, how do you gauge? What's your barometer of, all right, today's actually, there's a hard line in the sand of I need to just put everything on pause and focus on me for, my mental health, my physical health, for sleep, for whatever, versus when you're just maybe like phoning it in, or does you understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if I ever feel like I'm dreading something or I'm not looking forward to it, it just reminds me of when I was back in the corporate world, and I was like, that's not a feeling that I ever want. And so I try to follow what feels good in every moment. And sometimes that means canceling appointments, and sometimes that means taking a day off and like watching movies all day, or going for a walk, or going for a hike. There's so many great hiking places in Portland.
Oh my gosh, I bet. Yeah.
It's stunning. But I think the old way of doing things is you keep going no matter what, like find a way to push through, and people end up so burnt out and exhausted that if you just follow what really feels good in that moment, you're going to get the energy that you need to be able to do all of the things that you wanted to do, but in a much more efficient way. It's going to come across a lot better because you're not going to feel the energy of resistance, or you're not going to.
It's very real.
It really is.
Absolutely.
And I think people can feel that. I had a life coaching call that I was going to do with some people in our mastermind, and I canceled it because I was not feeling like I was going to give them good energy. And I got so many people who messaged in and they were like, thank you, because by you doing that, you're telling me that I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Setting the example.
Yeah. And I think people need to just feel okay with not going according exactly to plan when we lay everything out.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you kind of take it case by case, or with me over the years, I've kind of picked up on character traits, personality traits, that feeling, really like you were describing of, all right, I'm feeling some kind of way, or I have this kind of hesitation or a thought. It's really a thought or a feeling that pops up, and just being able to kind of take pause and really like put that thought or feeling on trial.
Yeah.
Like, all right, is it valid? Is it just because, am I just really cranky because I haven't eaten yet? Okay, Chase, go back and eat, and then you can actually, fairly judge what you want to do today, or if you're going to cancel or not. Do you have a little formula? Do you have like an inner monologue, or do you just know, I feel this way, it's a yes or a no?
I definitely will have to ask myself and think like, am I feeling this way because I'm unprepared? Am I feeling this way?
That's
because,
honest, yeah.
Yeah, and because I didn't get enough sleep, or because definitely the hunger thing. If I'm hungry.
That's usually 9 out of 10 reasons why I'm not showing up my best, is because I haven't eaten yet.
Oh my gosh. I know. I have my team, they know when I am not, when I need food. If I start to feel off, like they will, like all of a sudden there'll be like food in front of me. And
my wife's the same way.
Yeah.
She's like, you're cranky. I'm going to make you a sandwich. I love you. Thank you.
Well, I think ultimately, like you have to really know yourself and know what your intuition says and that gut instinct. And whether or not it's something that you should push through or something that you should really actually pause.
Yeah. How did you go through the process of getting to know yourself?
Trial and error.
Yeah.
It's definitely taken a lot of trust. I think that we all are intuitive beings, and our intuition will always lead us in the right way. We just don't pay attention to what that feels like a lot of the time. So I read a book once, You Are a Badass, Jen Sincero.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like the first personal development book that I read, and it kind of kicked off this crazy journey that I've been on for the last few years. And something she said in there that you just, like, there's signs everywhere. Just pay attention to the signs.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
And it was like, it kind of woke me up from really sleepwalking through life. And I started really thinking about, okay, like, what do I want? What actually feels good? Because we forget to even pay attention to what is really good for us. And we're just kind of, in the rat race, as they say.
Yeah. Of life,
yeah. And so I started doing things like meditating, and I started visualizing, and I started journaling, and just really paying attention to, okay, am I doing this because it's something I want to do, or because somebody else wants me to do it?
Do I need to do it? Should I do it?
Yeah.
Do I want to do it? Yeah.
Exactly. And then I'll give it up to the universe, give it up to God, and just say, all right, if I'm meant to do this, give me a sign.
Yeah.
And the signs can either be through like an intuitive feeling, or like something actually happening in your outer world. And every time you pay attention and you take action on it, then they show up more frequently.
Yeah.
We're supposed to live in a world where synchronicities happen all the time.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I can get on board with that as well.
Yeah. You just have to, every time you trust and you listen to yourself, they happen and they show up way more often.
Is it just as simple sometimes for you as just pausing? Like, I'm going to pause on responding to this email, or saying yes or no, or, even making a decision if I'm going to cancel or not. For me, I found the power of pause is exactly what I need to kind of just gather myself, really.
Yeah.
And to just, kind of pull back and really fully objectively evaluate. Is it that simple for you, or?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I will go into like a quick 5-minute meditation and just try to clear out my thoughts. Because there's so many things that are happening on any given day that like my brain is so full of information that if I just clear it out and really just ask my higher self, my inner guidance, like, is this something that is actually real and true and that I want? We know the answer. Everything that we need is within us.
I agree.
We just need to pause and get quiet and actually listen. And then it'll almost always come to you in that moment.
Yeah, we can pause and get quiet like it just did right now.
For me, at least. I think it works differently for everybody. The way that I have found time blocking successful for me is the things that I don't necessarily enjoy doing.
Oh my gosh.
That I'll like put off, like I can do that tomorrow. I'll just do that, or I'll do that Friday. That is the stuff I've most recently started blocking out.
And those are things we always wind up saying the same thing over and over again every week. It's because we don't do them.
Yes.
We have to put them off again, I know.
I was talking to, I have a hypnotherapist that I work with, and helps reprogram my subconscious mind. She's amazing. And we were talking about just creating more time in life. And, I was like, I really need to make sure that I'm getting this specific thing done in my business. I keep avoiding it. Can you just tell my subconscious mind that I enjoy doing it?
Can you tell myself to chill out and just come on board for the ride? Yeah.
And she's like, why don't you just get your phone right now and block time to actually get that done and don't do anything else. Yeah. And I did it, and I actually started listening to my calendar.
Amazing concept.
It's crazy. I mean, it sounds so easy, but it's not easy to do if you're not in the habit of it. So things that I avoid doing. I definitely have routines that are set up that I think when you're first starting a routine, it's really good to block it out.
Absolutely. It's a new habit. It's new.
Yeah. And then once it's ingrained, then you don't necessarily have to put it on the calendar, but just make sure it's something that you're continuing to do. And of course, I mean, you hear people talk about the power of a morning routine, and I've definitely gotten in and out of one on probably dozens of occasions.
Oh, yeah. When I look back on stressful days, more than they should be, I'm like, why was I so worked up? Or why did things just kind of not go how I wanted them to or planned? Well, first accepting that nothing is in my control. But then also it usually traces back to my morning routine was interrupted, or I broke it. Instead of me just waking up and kind of easing into my day, my first 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it is that I do, I decided to check that email.
Yes.
And then send me into a downward spiral of putting out fires, and then just, I wake up reacting to things instead of being able to like efficiently respond to them.
It happens to me all the time. Like every time I feel like something is off, I'm feeling stressed, my life is feeling chaotic, it is 100% because I didn't wake up, I didn't do my meditation, I didn't visualize what I wanted my day to look like, and I just woke up reacting, just like you said. And it bleeds into the entire day. Whatever you're doing in the morning is what is going to happen the rest of the day. So you better be really intentional with it.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is easy to get, especially when I'm traveling. It can be hard, and I travel quite a bit. So
was all of this kind of awareness into the ability to optimize you as a human being, as a spouse, as a working professional, was all this kind of the pun intended spark for what you have created now to kind of help others?
Yeah, well, I definitely, I've got 4 kids, I've got a husband, I have 2 businesses, and there's only so much time in a day. And so the morning routine thing was really just so I knew that I was creating time for myself.
Sure, yeah.
And I knew that if I wasn't pouring into myself, then I was going to get drained and stressed. And the morning, but what has actually been in that morning routine has totally shifted since I first started.
Same, yeah.
Yeah, I used to be I used to get up at 3:00 in the morning. And
wow.
I would go to the gym for 2 hours, and then I would come home and I would journal, and then I would meditate. And so before the kids even woke up, I was up for like 4 hours.
Wow.
Since then, I've learned that as I get older, I need a little more sleep.
Yes.
So
shout out sleep. It's the best.
It really is.
It's my number one. It's the top of my personal wellness hierarchy.
Oh gosh, that really makes such a difference. And if I can get a good 7-hour sleep, I'm happy.
Amazing.
I used to be able to function off of 5, and just not anymore. No.
I like that you said function. You used to be able to function, but who wants to just function?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So your body will definitely start to tell you when you're not getting enough sleep.
It's all seasons, right? Especially, I don't have kids yet, but in relationships, and then when you have children, and as your life grows, your business grows, your job grows, you realize that I don't want to just function in all these areas. I want to hold the line. I want to thrive. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's such a learning process that when I stopped waking up so early, I cut out working out from my routine altogether.
Oh, it didn't just move to another spot in the day. It was bye-bye.
It was like, I'm going to take a break from
Okay.
working out. And I was competing for a while.
Okay.
And so when I stopped doing that, it was like, I'm such an all or nothing person that if I wasn't going in all, I was like, okay, I'm going to do nothing for a while.
Which I'm sure for someone like you were competing multiple times.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, someone like that, your body was probably like, thank God, we got some break.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you're gonna sleep now. You're gonna rest, and I started working then on more of my mindset and really focusing on brain health, and got so fascinated with neuroscience and dove really deep into that and learned a lot and really improved my mindset. But meanwhile, my body over here is on the back burner, and you just can't function with just mind, body, and spirit all not working in harmony together. But a lot of us do that, though. We get so excited that we learn more about spirituality, and you'll like start reading all of the books and going to all of the events, and you'll inevitably put something else to the side. And I've definitely found that I've got to carve time out for each of that now, in order for me to actually feel like I'm thriving. So even if it's 20 minutes of working out, that's my all or nothing. It doesn't have to be 2 hours. It's imperfect action, I guess, every day.
Absolutely, yeah. Kind of what you're talking about there of when we become aware of something in our life that is just really curious or fascinating, or we do something, we see a great response, or soon after that, I think it's human nature to want to go deeper on that, to do that more. I mean, it's a dopamine hit.
Yeah,
it's
you feel good.
Exactly, yeah. But then you're right. Typically, if we give more to one area of our life, something else, we don't take. It's just it's the scale, right?
Yeah.
We only have so much time, so much energy. Do you think that's good or bad? Is it good to kind of go through these compartmentalized seasons of life, to go all in on my physical health, to go all in on education, to go all in on just I'm going to commit in my personal relationships, so that that area can really get to the level to where you can hold the line later on, and then kind of come back and pay attention to the other areas of your life? Is that good or bad? Do you think is there a way to properly go through that, or even quantify the timeline, to time block basically this area of my life needs growth and I'm going to go all in, and then make sure that the other stuff doesn't get left behind?
Yeah, well, I think there's good and bad to that. I think whatever you focus on definitely grows. And so if you want if you want massive growth in an area of your life, then absolutely devote so much focus to it, and it will grow. That being said, there's certain things that you don't want to lose sight of, like you said, relationships.
Or you don't realize that you are losing sight of until a lot of damage has been done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm thankful to have a really good partner that is okay with telling me, like, hey, babe, like, we'd like to actually hang out with you. I know you're really into, for me, it's business, into my business. And sometimes it's hard to come up for air because you're just enjoying it so much, but not at the expense of my family. And it really can be unintentional because
absolutely.
when you're so deep and involved in something, and I got that way with competing as well. Where, I was at the gym for 2 hours in the morning, and then I would go on my lunch break, and then once the kids went to bed, I would go back. I was obsessed with it.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be at that level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a competition.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're not doing that, then the person to the left and right of you, then you know that they are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I think that the seasons of my life where I've gone really, really deep into something with my mind, my body, or my spirit, I needed to in that moment. But there's you can't stay there forever.
Right.
You've got to be able to pull back and focus on other areas of your life. And hopefully you have somebody that is in your life, whether that be a friend or whether that be your partner.
The importance of real life interactions,
yes.
like we were saying earlier.
Yeah, who can give you some perspective and be like,
those
hey.
interpersonal communication skills, interpersonal accountability. Really.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And thankfully now I've got so many people in my life who I trust to tell me when, Rachel, you need to actually pull back a little bit, pull the reins back. You have kids, remember.
So taking care of ourselves, clearly you've got a pretty good formula down. And again, you learn what to do by figuring out what doesn't work. Really, I think that's one of the best ways to learn. I always say, be an N=1, a study of one, whether it's your diet, your time blocking skills, whatever it is that you want to do, just recognize that this whole thing known as living is an experiment. And, it takes a few adding and subtracting of variables to find your formula for success. But the important thing is that you're devoting time to make one, right?
Yes.
So now how do you do that for others? Talk to us more about us, like me. It's just me here. Talk and the listener. Fill me in more on Spark and how you've been able to kind of effectively communicate this stuff, these things that work for you in your life for a better, relationship, better health, better just mindset overall. And, how do you effectively communicate that to the people in Spark?
Yeah.
And what is Spark doing?
Yeah, well, I think there's so many people right now who are they're waking up from sleepwalking through life and they're wanting more, and people are in search for it. I mean, this is why like live events are so popular, and like the personal development scene has exploded. But people are looking for answers that are outside of themselves. They're like, tell me how to live my life. Tell me like exactly like.
Tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do. I'll listen to anything. And what Spark does is just teaches people how to look within, because everything like my journey and what I need to live my ultimate destiny is going to look nothing like what yours does.
Yeah.
It's just so different. And so I can listen to what you do and how you create an amazing life. But if I try to copy you, I'm going to end up somewhere that's going to ultimately probably make me unhappy.
Yeah.
So with Spark, it's
or get disappointed because you don't get the same results.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what's the point? Or Chase is a liar.
Yeah. And it might take you like 3 times as long to get somewhere.
It's an unfair evaluation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that people are spending gobs of money trying to find like their purpose in life when all you like really need to do is figure out what you want. How do you want to feel? Like not what your parents think you want, not what like society says you should do. And I'm teaching this to my children right now because they're starting to like think about college. And I'm like, if you want to go to college, awesome. Yeah. But think about what you really, really want in life. And like, if that doesn't include the public education system, then that is okay.
Wow. Like, these conversations that are changing through the generations are amazing. I'm not to cut you off, but I'm right with you there. Like my wife and I, we don't even have kids yet. We're talking about, do we want our kids to go to college? Or if they came up with this idea, hey, I got this great idea for a business, or I have this opportunity to just thrive in something that just fulfills me.
Yeah.
Like I would be all for it. Like honestly, by that time, like I don't know if colleges might be in a tough spot. I don't know if it's going to be the same necessary path, but that's amazing to hear that you're even just encouraging your children to just think outside of the box and to think about fulfillment, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we live in such a different world now.
Sure,
and I think when the education system was built, like that was the only way you could get educated.
Yeah.
And we live in a world now where, I mean, you can learn how to do anything online, and you don't necessarily need to have a degree to be successful. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a college degree, and I have 2 multi-6-figure businesses. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I mean, and I think that I was just talking to my my aunt last night, and she was saying that like one of her children were their college money got cut off from her ex-husband because he didn't think the degree was going to bring her enough money in life, but that was something that she wanted to do.
Oh man!
And I was like, God, there's so many people that are out there going into debt into education, and
tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of
that
dollars.
They'll never be able to pay off for a lot of people, and end up in a job that they absolutely hate, and then they're miserable. I mean, honestly, I think this is why there's so much depression and anxiety and suicide. Just people get to a point in their life and they're like, okay, like I'm supposed to be happy now, and they're not, and they don't know what to do about it.
Have you seen the inside of a cubicle lately? It's just
thankfully no.
Blah. I mean, gosh, yeah. Or I mean, just like and not to say there's anything wrong with it. Like, I loved my last job. It was just like the business part that wound up like having some friction. But like my day to day, I loved. But just think about the environment, the mental health, just like everything that you're subjected to. That you have all those other things. Yeah. Backing it up in a negative reinforcing way of debt, of mental health, of just sanity, of fulfillment, and it's just so begrudgingly going to something that. Like why?
Why? Yeah. I mean, yes, I think money can be important, and money helps you survive, I guess, to a certain level. But ultimate fulfillment and happiness has nothing to do with money. Yeah. Like if your soul came to this earth to be of service to people, and maybe that's like running a freaking daycare. I don't know. Maybe you love children, and that's where you get your fulfillment. Then that's fantastic. You don't have to have a 4-year degree for that. You do have to pay attention to what you want. And I think that's where parents right now can really have an influence over the next generation. And my 13-year-old daughter actually said it really, really well. She spoke at the last Spark event that we had. I mean, in front of hundreds of women. It was incredible. Wow. But she was trying to come up with what her speech was supposed to be, and she recently came out as pansexual. And I said, why don't you talk about like how you discovered and sharing about being, your sexuality? And she's like, Mom, that's not important. It's like, nobody cares about that. That's not spark worthy. And I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, there's so many people, women, men out there that were told that they had to be in a certain religion, love a certain gender, they had to follow a certain path, or that was their only option. They weren't loved. They weren't good enough. And
it was right or wrong.
Exactly. And this new generation that's really rising up, they are deciding who they want to be at a much younger age. And it's because there are more parents who are waking up to like, oh shit, like I lived this whole life because of this outdated belief system that was handed down to me. And so they're raising these more wakened up kids. And she stood on the stage and she was just like talking to these women, and she's like, who do you want to be? And she was challenging them, and it was really freaking beautiful. But so many people have no idea what they even want. Like, they didn't even know where to begin. And so what we teach in Spark is like, if you don't know what you want to do, if you can't like dream what that perfect life is for you, just start with how you want to feel. And it's usually the opposite of how you don't want to feel. If people are stressed, okay, so you want to feel like flow in your life, and you want to feel spaciousness, and like start there. Start with how you want to feel and just focus on that. And then we teach the steps of how to actually do that, from like habits and rituals and new spirituality principles that you can implement. But it's everything that you need for your life, Chase, like that is already inside of you. You just need to actually learn how to go within to find your own like inner guidance, inner compass. And
absolutely. It's like we were born with, given this like ultimate treasure map. The fountain of youth, the city of gold, all these ancient tales. Like, we have that, and it's just a matter of, I believe, first is just you have to accept that is true, and I believe that there is something inside of me that I am just innately destined, whatever, just that I love to do, that it is there, that like I don't really need anybody else, but I want other people in my life to like be a part of that journey, and that if I just recognize that it's there and then put myself on the journey to get there, and it's a winding maze of peaks and valleys and war and peace, it's incredible to know that you can get there. If you ever really fully get there, but just every step that you take, it's one step closer to that paradise,
Absolutely. And I really believe if you just focus on what that like dream life looks like for you, like what really feels fun and good, and oftentimes it's like what you really enjoyed as a kid.
Yes. Yeah.
Like what sounded fun when you were a kid.
Inner child is very top of mind for me the past like years. So I'm realizing that, and going back to play, going back to human interaction, going back to subconscious, conscious traumas, micro traumas, just belief systems. It's amazing when you really put thought on what happened to me, around me, for me, from about 3 to 12. I used to think kind of like 3 to 7-ish, because it's so instrumental in the developmental years of like your consciousness and the brain and actually what is being solidified, but also just like those character traits of, what provides you joy, what maybe gives you some friction or hesitation. The good, the bad, the ugly, it's all there.
The way that you see the world is developed in those years. And many times we see the world as a very scary place, and that everything's happening to us and not for us during those ages.
Because of that environment that we grew up in, usually.
Yeah, well, the good news is like that's not set in stone. Just the act of realizing like why those experiences made you who you are, and that you have the ability to change that just by the awareness that it's even there is huge. Yeah. So huge.
This is actually really timely. Yesterday, I attended this event, and it was a live event, kind of a culmination of a weekend retreat for some other people. But I just went to the one-day event, and it was some solo speakers, it was some panel speakers, and it was all around business, personal development, social media, business tactics, for everybody. Predominantly, we're in like the health, wellness, personal development space. And I've had this thought before. Some of the speakers I've even heard before multiple times. So it's like, why would I keep going back to the same source? It's because I like them as human beings. And that kind of sparked, no pun intended, this kind of concept that I've been mulling over after I recently finished reading a book. And it was in this space of personal development, self-help, whatever you want to call it, education. I think we're all saying the same thing. And not to sound like negative in any way, but I'm just like, what you say is exactly the same thing as what I say, is what everybody on that panel said. And so, there's kind of comfort in that. There's comfort in knowing that, okay, if I want to be a better human being, if I want to feel better, look better, sleep better, perform better, just, live better, support better, that it's not trying to just pull something out of thin air, but me as a human being, everybody else who I'm looking to, who I'm pulling information from, they're all doing the same thing. They're saying the same thing. Yeah. But it just only takes one person, one time, or a couple people, a couple times to just be able to mirror the humanization aspect. Like what I say and what you say could literally be exactly the same. But for someone listening to you or to me, you're going to share a part of your story.
Oh, I was just going to say
you're
that.
You're going to share a part of your story. I'm going to share a part of my story that is just going to like immediately take them back to that inner child.
Yeah.
It's going to take them back to this experience. And so if we know that, where I'm going with this is that we all want to get better. And so if we want to get better, then it's the same things. It's the same things, all the things that we're saying. But then it's just, we hear that there's one other person uniquely went through something the same or very similar. And I think literally in my caption on Instagram, I talked about how, it sounded better when I wrote it yesterday. Let me see if I can remember. It was, we hear something, you say something that mirrors an experience in me that unlocks this door that was locked that I had no idea. It gives me this permission to like, to move forward in a way. And it unlocks this door, this potential for me that was always there.
Yes.
And so, like, do you agree with that? Do you agree that we're all saying the same thing?
Wholeheartedly.
It's just a matter of how we're saying it and which story mirrors and resonates with individuals to finally be that catalyst.
Yes, yeah. And this is exactly how we actually build up Spark conferences. It's regular people. And I mean, the first time I ever did a Spark event, like I went so far into debt paying all of these amazing speakers. And the one person who had the most compelling reaction from the audience was an audience member that I pulled up off the stage onto the stage, and I was like, I just feel like you have a story to share. And she shared like 15 minutes of her story, just growing up in poverty and how she's got to where she's at. People were standing on their chairs, freaking out, screaming. Like, it was amazing.
Yes.
And then so now, like, we have women that have speaking experience, but women that have never spoken before. Like I think half of the speakers we had last year, just to get up and share a story.
That's amazing.
And we try to find so many different types of stories to bring together because there's somebody in the audience that's going to resonate with one of them.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the key that unlocks. And so they don't have to worry about speaking to 600 women. Mm-hmm. Just find the one that's going to listen. Just speak to those who can hear you. And it's so true. I'm so glad that you said that because so many people, we are saying the same thing. Yeah. We're teaching the same thing, which is good. And if you're listening to this and you like have a story to share, be like, oh, man, everybody's already saying it. You have to share your story because there's people out there who are going to see themselves in you.
Yeah. Inner child work, past traumas, but storytelling has really been some revolutionary kind of concepts for me. When you think about it, it's the most basic, fundamental thing. It's, we all have been children. We all have been born. We've all gone through things that have kind of helped set the tone for our life. And in order to understand that, you're really needing to understand your story.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. I think one of the best ways that we can move forward in life, that we can optimize this life, is by telling your story.
Yes.
And in order to tell your story, you need to first understand it. And in order to understand that your story, we all have an origin point. And so you need to go all the way back to the beginning of your story, and that is your childhood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I think that we even forget some of the stories that happened to us when we were younger.
Oh yeah,
And there's
yeah,
something like I could be having a conversation with you, and you could be sharing something from your
yeah,
childhood that reminds me about something
yeah,
with mine,
yeah.
and all of a sudden it makes so much sense. Like oh, like that's why I have a fear of heights or dogs or whatever it may be
Yeah.
from that one experience.
Yeah, it's so funny you say this. I actually was just sharing with a friend of mine and my wife recently. Um, just an example here for the listener of how ingrained what goes on in your childhood, of what's good or bad, or what you're allowed to do, or what you're allowed to say, or what you're allowed to have, what you're allowed to earn in this world. I recently, this is how I justify big purchases, and big purchases for me could be literally $30 if I just don't see the value in it for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But I recently made a pretty big purchase for me. I bought a pair of shoes that it's stupid expensive, and so I like stupid. But I was back home with my family. I was in a great environment with my family, my in-laws, and we were walking through Black Friday back in DC, and we were walking through this department store, and I saw these shoes. Literally, they're the most outlandish, wild, ridiculous, insane shoes. Like they're so ridiculous. I love them. I just fell in love with them. They're not me at all. But of course, I flipped it over, looked at the price tag, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like no way!" But then it's just like it kept popping up. I kept Googling them, kept looking them up, and like for whatever reason, like I just love these shoes. I love them. It gave me so much joy. And I have a couple really cool occasions I know I'm going to wear them for. So long story short, 4 months later, I finally bought them. And I was talking it through with my wife. Of course, I'm sharing with her, this purchase decision, big purchase decision. And well, like, look, Chase, you love them. Like you really, really love them. We have multiple occasions where these are going to be great for. It's going to add value to the experience. Well, why do you feel this kind of way? And I was like, I remember I shared with her this story. One time as a kid, I grew up in the sticks in Virginia, and didn't have a lot of money, but great, loving childhood. And I remember feeling such remorse, and like I felt bad asking my parents. I found a pair of these like skate shoes. I think they're called Airwalks. They were like $30, $40 maybe. Nothing special, just black flat-footed shoes because everybody in my school was wearing them.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad asking my parents, like, hey, could I get these shoes? Because I knew that it was more expensive than I've ever had. And it was like, it was a not right now. And then I think eventually I got them for my birthday or something. But in my head, I was like, oh my God, if like 8-year-old Chase knew that 20 some years later, 25 years later, he was going to be spending this amount of money on shoes, like I immediately began to think about what would my dad say? What would my mom say? Like, or they would be so like. I immediately was transplanted back to this kind of like state of fear and excitement and resentment for all of these things. But I was just like I gotta let that little Chase go. Like, big Chase is here, and he's decided that he wants this and make him happy, and it's his decision, with his wife now. But just a small example of I think how we don't realize our decision making process, our belief system, like what that really is anchored to. And we can cut that cord. We can totally change that.
Well, you're reprogramming your mind.
Yeah, that was a really long-winded story. Thank you for.
That was a great story.
I'm sorry, I kind of like took it over there, but
no, it made me think about like so many money stories that happened to me as a kid that definitely bled into my adulthood. That took a while.
And I'm glad you said keeping the theme of like money and decisions and stuff like that. I think that's a big part of this process. I'm sure you work with a lot of clients on that, of really breaking financial barriers, financial mindsets. For me has been huge in the overall personal, professional development world. What are your thoughts on that? Because we can teach people till we're blue in the face of, you need to move more, you need to sleep more, you need to eat well, all these other things that are free or low cost. But when it comes to like investing in yourself, when it comes to going to a live event, when it comes to buying these books, when it comes to just allowing yourself to have that sheer joy in your life by maybe spending more on a pair of shoes than you have before.
Yes.
Like, what's the power in financial kind of breakthroughs for personal development?
Well, I think that money is probably one of the biggest blocks for people, period, on personal development scale. Like if you don't have a good relationship with money, one, you're not going to invest in yourself very much, but you're probably not going to have enough money to invest in the things that you want. So we teach at Spark, we teach people to, one, recognize where that money story came from. Talk about growing up.
Childhood chase.
Yeah, exactly. Growing up,
Yeah.
what did money mean to
Yeah.
your parents? What did you always hear about money? Was like money didn't grow on trees, or money caused a lot of stress. And I know for me, I grew up as well in a very loving family, but I was raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs, and money was always tight. And that, like, as an older adult Rachel, like money was like, okay, I have to make money because I don't want to be like struggling like my mom. But it was very, very hard for me to believe that a lot of money was possible. I never saw in my environment people that had a lot of money. And when I did, I'd always felt like I wasn't good enough compared to them. And so I had a lot of resistance around even getting more money because I didn't want to make other people feel not good enough as well.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, I'm raising my hand. Yeah, to like so much what you just said. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was really hard for me when I first, and I really just in the last year and a half, I broke past a huge block and just started telling myself that, okay, money doesn't have to be hard. I can make a shit ton of money and not have to work a lot, and that means I can help more people. And really started just, saying affirmations and visualizing all of these different things. But when I started getting, and the money started coming in, I felt so much guilt because members of my family were still stuck in this old money pattern and behavior. And then I was like, okay, I got to teach these guys how to do this. I got to teach them how to reprogram. And there's just so much resistance for people with money because it's, they just think it needs to be so much harder than it needs to be. It's just, I don't know. I think that, I think with money, if you can really get to the root of why you have the money story that you have, then you can start rewriting that story.
Shout out Jen Sincero again. You Are a Badass at Making Money.
Yeah.
That book was amazing. And again, when I actually got that on audio, the Audible version.
Yeah, me too.
And I would listen to that. She was a great orator, great speaker. I could hear the humor in her voice coming out a lot.
Yes.
And I would listen to it when I would go on my walks a lot last year. We were down in Laguna. And again, I was like, Chase, these are all things that you already know. Like, these are all things that your coaches told you, that you tell other people that you work with. Like, all these concepts, it was just, in that kind of world more of finance.
Yeah.
Financial development. It's just so weird that it just takes that one time for that one person to say something that just like, okay, cool. Like, I've believed what you've been saying, but now I know that you went through something similar.
Yes.
That is just so, it hits home for me. Like, it's just like, okay, now I'm allowing myself to fully, not just say that I believe it, but to believe it and to invite it into my life. And not just invite it into my life, but then actually like put it into motion, take action on it.
Yeah. Our brain sees it as evidence when somebody that's similar to us, our brain is like, okay, there's evidence that it's possible. So then you can actually start to change your belief system.
Yeah.
And kind of Jen Sincero, like that book was fantastic. She talks about writing affirmations and what like specific amounts of money that you want.
Yeah.
And I had this woman, she's a client of mine, she reached out via email a few weeks ago and she's like, I need some business advice. I need some cash flow coming into my business, like a pretty good amount of like $500,000.
Yeah.
But all the loans that I'm getting are these bad rates. Like, as somebody who owns a business, can you give me some advice?
Yeah.
And it was like, you're not going to like what I have to say. I'm like, just get really clear on the amount of money that you need. I want you to get a Post-it note out and I want you to write, I am going to receive $500,000 from an unexpected source that makes me feel really good. And she didn't respond to this email.
Oh, wow.
And I saw her the next week at a meeting and she was like, I got to tell you, when I first got your email, I was like, fuck you, Rachel. I can't manifest $500,000.
Exactly.
Like, okay, you've gone a little
Must
off the
be
deep end.
nice. Yeah.
And she said, but I did it. I wrote it down on a piece of paper and we're on a video call and she put it up on the screen. And within 48 hours, she got 3 different loans at the rate that she wanted that totaled $500,000.
No way.
Yeah. And she's like,
Wow.
this works.
Damn.
And I don't want to say it's always as simple as that.
Yeah.
You really do have to believe that it's possible.
Yeah.
You will get in life 100% what you expect to happen.
You have to have the belief and then work towards it.
Absolutely. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just, and people have this misconception about manifestation. Like, I'm just going to visualize what I want and then I'm going to sit here and wait for it to happen, right? And maybe sometimes it can be that easy, but most of the time, I mean, you're given opportunities or ideas or like intuitive hits that are those signs that will lead you to everything that you want, but you have to take action on it. You can't just sit there and wait. And most of the time it's really scary stuff. It's stuff that you have, like, you've never done before. And you have to really take a leap of faith. And that's why I think so many people don't do it, because it requires an intense amount of self-trust. But if you can do that and you start taking leap after leap and action after action, then those synchronicities start happening like freaking crazy.
Yeah, I can attest to that for sure.
Yeah. So it's just a new way of living. So many people, I think, are just living the wrong way. We're born on this earth. Yeah, we're born to live in this magical, like Harry Potter style world where we can create like so many magical things. But you really do have to wake up and be ready and really want it.
What, if you'd be willing to share, is an area of your life that you maybe still feel like you're sleepwalking, that you're waiting, that you're working on kind of, putting out there, manifesting, where's the belief and where the action on like this big new thing for you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think because I have some really, really big visions, really big dreams.
Awesome. Love it.
And it's like, sometimes I can think like, like, Rachel, are you like that?
Like,
seems,
chill out.
Are you getting a little too big for your britches there? And I'll have to remind myself constantly, like, you're Rachel, like 10.0 right now, and you have dreams of Rachel 20.0. Like, you just have to know that, just the trust that it's going to happen, regardless of where your current circumstances now, like, and believe that it's going to happen. So the self-trust thing, I think, is always a work in progress, and believing that you were given your dreams and visions for a reason, and that it's not just something that was pulled out of thin air.
Yeah.
And so I think trusting in those big, crazy-ass dreams that just don't seem possible from this girl from Red Bluff, California, like, population 5,000. But I do have the evidence. I have the evidence drastically over the last 3 years that every time I've said yes to something, every time I've made a right when the world said you should go left, that my life has changed massively in the last few years. Massively. It's crazy to me. That why not?
Yeah.
Why not have those, like, Spark Global and taking, just truly, I think that Spark is going to be a global company that is helping people just wake up from this crazy trap that we've been in.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure having you here. We'll kind of get towards the end here. We'll be mindful of your time. Thank you so much for coming through here on your LA World Tour, your LA tour.
My LA tour.
Of course, we'll have all of your information for you and Spark down in the show notes. And I think we've referenced some really good books and other content. I'll have to link down for everybody. But everything we've been talking about, it really embodies the concept of, Ever Forward, which is great. And I appreciate you kind of sharing your journey, your story. And so what I really hope here is that the person listening, there's something that they've heard from you, or maybe me, that this finally, the one time, mirrored that experience, mirrored their story, and they are going to just decide that, all right, I've been hearing all these things, and there's the proof. There's whatever small little glimpse of proof that I heard, so that I can give myself permission to, like, go take action.
Yes. Do it.
Yeah. Great spark. Yes. Catalyst for change here. Absolutely. How many more spark puns can I make?
I love it.
But that really does, like I said, embody the message of Ever Forward. And that was something that, growing up, being hesitant to ask my parents for $30 shoes, I still grew up in an environment of love and support, and this mantra instilled in us from a very young age of Ever Forward from my dad. And so, like, it very much is my belief system, just as much as I have those financial belief systems around shoes to work through. I've got my staple ever forward belief system. And so that's what it means to me. That's a little bit of, kind of the origin there. I'm curious, what does that mean to you? How would you say that you live a life ever forward?
I would say that I learned what ever forward means to me from a woman named Annabelle Fisher, who was a good friend of mine who was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and she was told she had 6 weeks to live. She ended up living 6 months, but knowing that she was on a death sentence, she started teaching people, and her message was that you have to grab life with both hands and make it count every single day. And that's why I've got this tattooed, make it count, on my wrist for Annabelle.
I have ever forward on my
I love it. I love it. We should have affirmations tattooed all over our body. It's my goal. Be 80 with affirmations all over me. But when she passed away in June of last year, it was a couple of days before Father's Day. I felt like she passed me this torch, and that it's my responsibility every single day to make every single day count. Like it's the last. If today were my last day on earth, like who am I connecting with? Am I making it a valuable conversation? Am I giving more to others than I'm receiving? And that for me is living ever forward, is making every single day the best that you possibly can, even the days that feel like they're going to suck all day long. There's always something that you can do to make it really good. And that's usually something to do with human connection.
I agree. Absolutely. And the stories align even more. So not only was it a message that we heard growing up, but my father was diagnosed terminal Lou Gehrig's disease back in late 2003, passed away January 2005. And thank you. But even during, like, literally watching my hero wither away and die, it was always ever forward. It's like, as much as he physically could, like, still smile, and he passed this torch, absolutely. And I've said this a lot here, but just hearing that story with you, when I found out my dad was sick, I was in the military at the time. I was in the Army, maybe about a year in, and I was like, my family needs me, my dad needs me. I tried to get out. And so there's a process you can go through to drop hardship paperwork to prove that your family needs you more than Uncle Sam at the time.
Yeah.
And once he found out about that, literally the last days that he was physically able to walk and talk, he flew out to where I was stationed at the time in Northern California, up in Monterey, and spent about 3 or 4 days teaching me, like, Chase, I've been saying this shit my whole life. Here's actually what it means. Like, you cannot let the ending of my story, like, prevent yours from ever beginning.
Wow.
And so he taught me what it was to live a life ever forward. He passed that torch. It was this, he gave me this gift, this horribly ugly wrapped gift that I didn't want in my life at that time. And my family, none of us did. But through that, I mean, he has given us all so much.
And now you're teaching other people to do that. He would be so proud of you.
Thank you. And likewise with Annabelle.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Shout out Ellen for hooking us up here.
Hey, Ellen.
I got to get up to Portland. I really, being on this side of the coast, again, I want to, like, start going up, experiencing the rest of my country. Seattle, Portland are all on my wish list there.
Well, if you guys come up, let me know. We can do a double date.
Amazing. Thank you.
Quinn and I.
Yeah. So real quick, like I said, I'll have everything in the show notes, but if someone wants to go find you right now, where are they going? Where are you hanging out the most online, social, website?
Oh, God. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
Either wearespark.us or just Rachel O'Rourke.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chase.